out of it. And
Yeah.
so then we decided we came to Hawaii 22 years ago now on vacation. And my brother and I were like, this is where we want to be, New Jersey. I'm tired of the snow shovel. So,
Right.
but we, where are you? You're in Chicago.
No, no, I say the time zone I'm in is Chicago. I'm Canadian. I'm from Winnipeg, and the last really 35 years have been in British Columbia.
Okay.
And my youngest, I have two sons. My oldest left home, and then my youngest left home. And I said, finally, no responsibility. What do I want to do? And I flew to Morocco and spent the next 2 years in North Africa and Europe. And now I'm down in Panama. And my goal is to go down the west coast to South America and up the east coast of South America. And when I started that, I was in Colombia 3 days before the pandemic closed everything down and they shut the borders. So I was actually 9 months in Medellin, and been back home a couple times, and now I'm back in Panama. I don't know if this particular trip I'll get all the way down as far as I want in South America, but that's my
Good
goal,
for
is
you.
to just travel. And
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. Um, I think I lost you. You're in show. You still there? I'm moving, but you're not moving. I think I lost you. No. Chat saying Cam, Mike, you're in the show. I think I lost you, Scott. Hmm. I lost you, man. Shit. Let me bring my charger, did I lost you. I guess I'm calling back. I don't know what to hit here. Let's see. Here we go. Cam, Mike, settings, chat. Do you have a? I'm sorry. Do you have a phone charger? Oh, phone charger I can use for Apple. My video. Hey, shh, hey. My video is eating up my battery power. I came at 100%, but I'm already down. Okay, thank you. You're welcome. Get this plugged in, Scott. So battery power, but it's going fast. All right, let's see if we can log on again. Okay, let's go back. See if we can get on. I think we just had a power outage. Big bang. Okay, let's see. Go here. Should only be a few minutes. Okay. We're all good. We got a power outage in Panama. That's where he's calling from. So I just shut this off, and when I need to go again, I just hit the boom, right?
Yes.
Start again.
Oh wait, isn't that the recording? That was your recording.
Okay.
So you do this one.
That one when he's ready.
Yeah. So he's gonna call back.
Yeah, so it should only be a few minutes.
Yeah.
So just
so
hit the red button when we start.
Yeah.
Okay, go get him.
All right.
Where are you guys heading? Oh, a Mass.
Yeah, and then one of her best friend lives here, so we're gonna meet up.
Cool.
Yeah. All right.
Have a good time. What's that?
We're gonna meet up with the husband at the church.
Oh, I got you. Your sister's husband.
Yes.
Okay. You guys need a mattress in here for her husband, or how? What's going on?
No, because they have their timeshare in Waikiki.
Oh, I got you.
So
So
she
this
just
is.
spent the night last night.
Oh, I got you. Okay, have fun. Okay, thank you. All right, let's get some work done while we're waiting. Yeah.
Hi, Darryl.
Oh, you stop. We have you back. Hold on. Where are? Let's
I'm
go. Let's go here. Go there. Let's go. How am I going to get you back on? Through text or
no. Well,
through?
you should be able to find the screen and just hit the video because we're talking through the video conference.
Yeah, I don't have anything. Click
Do you
on.
see me? No. All right.
All right, we're back in action.
That was exciting. There was a big bang. The two dogs came and sat beside me, wondering what was going on. All the power went out. And then when the power came back on, it didn't come on for the Wi-Fi. So I unplugged it, plugged it into another bar. So I guess the bar it was plugged into had a surge protector and it protected everything. But
Dogs don't like those fireworks. It's terrible.
no, that's right.
But they weren't fireworks. All right, so we left off. I'll let you continue.
Okay. Well, so basically, I'm traveling, and until I stop traveling, don't want to anymore. I think I'll just continue because there's a lot of the world that I want to see. And
you must be single.
Divorced.
Yeah. Single.
Yeah. I meet women that say, "Oh, I'd love to travel with you," and I think, if you knew my lifestyle, I don't think you'd really want to travel with me.
Maybe for a couple days, maybe for the weekend.
That's right. Now I'm bored.
Oh shit! All right,
it's a good life. So about 20 years ago, I met Dr. Gina Gaudio Grace, and she was a business strategist. And about 5 years ago, she asked me to help one of her clients with podcasting and marketing. So just to give you like how I got here is kind of a convoluted story, but I spent 20 years managing grocery stores for Safeway in Canada. And then in the mid 1990s, realized that everyone that was 10 years older than me was obese, having heart attacks or nervous breakdowns. And I thought, I'm no smarter than these guys, and that's my future. I didn't like it, so I left. And at that time, computers were coming out and the web was just starting. So I learned how to build websites and get traffic and that sort of stuff. And podcast was kind of my thing. And that's how we got working together. She's on his marketing team. I am on his marketing team. And then she's has sort of shifted, still doing that stuff, but shifted over to trust because she's a retired lawyer. And I've been studying trust for 30 years. I just thought that there was something not right about this, working 9 to 5 thing. And nothing I found would give me the confidence to actually do it until she showed me what she had developed with a bunch of lawyers and enrolled agents. So we have lawyers, CPAs, enrolled agents that have, worked on the trust and everything else. And there's a business trust, an IP trust, and a personal trust. And then we also started working with a group who are experts on foundations, private family foundations. So between now we have tools that we can pretty much do what we want to do to protect people's assets and minimize taxes and do good in the world, because it's not just about it's not about screwing the tax man. It's about paying our fair share. And but it's also about, why are we doing what we're doing? And hopefully it's, to raise our families right and make sure they're looked after, and also to give back something to the world. So that's kind of where I come from anyway. And she comes from that place. So,
gotcha. And what was her name?
Dr. Gina Gaudio.
Gina?
Gina.
Okay.
And then Gaudio is Gaudio. And then Grace is it's Dash Grace, really. Dash
Grace. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it's the Abundance Group. It's the Abundance Group Trust. That's the name that's our name.
Okay.
And
Abundance Use Trust.
Yeah, Abundance Group Trust.
I'm sorry. Okay. All right. And how about the attorney you're talking about? Whoops. My stand. Gina. Gina's a retired attorney, you had said.
Yeah. She was the editor of Notre Dame's law newsletter, whatever they, put out every month in 1990-91. And she's a wealth strategist, certified wealth strategist.
Okay. And where was she practicing most of her life?
I would say probably Chicago, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
She
All
was
right.
in a very bad car accident in the 1990s, and unfortunately, the surgeries that she took made it worse. And so, so she's well on it. I mean, she's much better now, but she still um, needs a cane to get around and that sort of thing.
Yeah, where'd she go? She went through back surgery, I would imagine.
Yeah. And they did the back surgery, and then they needed another surgery, and then
Yeah.
this drug
Yeah.
didn't work, and that drug didn't work, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Before long, they got you on the oxycodone, and you're hooked.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother went through 3 back surgeries, and just got worse and worse and worse. And then, and we're chiropractors. You know, we're not believers in surgery.
right,
And
right.
long story short, my brother was going for a shoulder replacement about a year and a half ago, and
Wow.
he was going for a total shoulder replacement, and they did the pre-op on Monday, surgery on Wednesday. They called him on Tuesday, so we can't do your surgery. Your blood work is all screwed up. You got to go see an oncologist. Long story
Mm.
short, he was diagnosed with acute leukemia, and
Oh no.
yeah, so we fought it. We fought it for a while here. We got him into remission, and then we flew to California, to the #1 country in the country for bone marrow transplants. I was the donor, so we dropped everything. We flew out there, rented a house for a year, and he went into the hospital, and we went through everything, and it's endless. I'll shorten it up, but long story short, we did the bone marrow transplant. I was a donor. We beat the leukemia, and he died in the hospital of COVID.
Oh no.
Yeah. So yeah, we lost my partner. So
Oh, so sorry to hear that, Darryl.
talk about it, but yeah, it sucked. But yeah, he was supposed to be in the hospital for 40 days. He was in the hospital for 6 months, and I
Oh,
was the house right next to the hospital, so I was there every day, just bringing him things because there was no visitors. No
right,
visitors. I'd bring him food, bring him laundry, bring him his, Italian sub when he wanted one. And, my brother and I, we're Italian, so we like to eat. So,
right,
um, I took care of the security guards, and I
right,
bring one for them, and then bring this one to my brother. He's like, no
right.
problem. Get it to him. So he just
Wow.
passed away about a year ago, March 24th, a year ago. He
Gee.
was my partner with everything. And, but certain things were in his name, certain things were in my name. For certain reasons over the years, we had different corporations and
Right.
chiropractic. We had 4 chiropractic offices, all corporations, and then we had testing, diagnostic mobile service. So
Wow.
we had corporations for that. So we're down now. We're simplified a little bit. So
So
we're
you're
just
not doing the chiropractic anymore.
now done. In
Okay.
Hawaii, they wanted me to go back to school.
Okay.
And at 57,
No.
I'm not going to school.
Not to learn what you already know.
Yeah. So, it was good while it was lasted. But so now we have the pest control company. And back to your answer, whether the kids would want it or not, um, I'd have to say, in a sense, yes. I
Right.
mean, I don't want them in the trucks. I don't want them technicians spraying chemicals. But
Right.
you can get a manager or just manage yourself in the office. Never get in a truck. Make a lot of money.
Right.
So, I don't know where they're going, but the only reason I'm not selling my business, I mean, I can sell the business now and retire. I mean, I can retire now, but
Right.
I'm keeping it for them. So, long story short, what do you go to college for? I mean, at this point, I would tell them, go get a business degree, go get some kind
Yeah.
of degree, and you step into a business that's making good money. But go
Right.
to college 4 years, have some fun, and then come out. And then if you don't want the business, then I'll sell it. But we're
Yeah.
7, 8, 10 years out.
Right. Yeah. It's not a decision you have to make now, and also as they're growing, if they're involved with you in the business and everything, then they understand, and they can I mean,
Yeah.
you're not likely working 70 hours a week in the business, so they hopefully can make the connection that you don't have to work so much that you don't do anything else, right?
Well, unfortunately, after my brother passed, I'm working 70 hours plus a week. So I'm
Oh,
trying to wear two hats. But I'm in the process. I hired somebody else, and I got somebody else starting. And I'm done, Scott. I worked a lot of years hard.
yeah,
Chiropractic, we went 70 hours a week, 70, maybe sometimes 80. And I just said, I'm going to power it out for 20 years and retire. And then I don't know. I don't know where I went wrong, but we came out to Hawaii. We bought a bunch of properties when it was affordable 20 years ago.
right.
And the first property I bought was 22 years ago, oceanfront, Sunset Beach, Point. It was 500 grand. So, uh,
Wow.
so yeah, those were the good old days where but back then it was a lot of money.
That was
Back
a
then,
lot of money back then.
that was a
Sure.
lot of money. Yeah, I just had somebody offer me 12 million for the property. I said, no.
Wow.
Oh, it's worth the money. It's worth a lot of money. It's oceanfront. But anyway, I bought and sold probably 10, 15 properties here. Bought, sold, bought, sold. I do have a 1031 going to the other property I was talking about. But this particular property I bought 22 years ago. I paid 265,000, and my brother and I shouldn't say that. We had one corporation, Scott, that was called 400 Plainfield Realty, which we started 30, 40 years ago in New Jersey. So what the accountant had us doing was we opened up a real estate company, S Corp, and we would pay rent from our chiropractic offices to the S Corp
Right.
and save on some taxes. So, at one point the rent was 10,000 a month, and the other offices were 5 and 7, and you save on some Social Security taxes, and you save in different ways. But that corporation has evolved to Hawaii. So the 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 deed is in a trust, which we did about, I don't know, 2011. The trust attorney here said, you got to get these deeds changed and put them in a trust, because she formed a trust. So we did that. But where I'm going with that, Scott, is the realty that we opened up, the S corp, and that property has basically been going through that S corp for 20 years, and it's deeded in my trust. So when I talked to my accountant a couple of weeks ago, he said, it really should have been going through the trust." And he said, no big deal, because you own the business, you own the trust, you own the S corp, as long as you pay your taxes. So that was his
Right.
opinion. And I said, there's got to be a way. I mean, without doing a 1031, of course,
Right.
which I don't want more property. I'm trying to get rid of them. So
Right.
right now, the market's peaking here. The market's peaking. So that's why I got out 2.25. And I'll hand it over to you now. What can we do to not pay because the government, they didn't do shit for me. I bought it, I fixed it, I rented it. Now they want 500 grand.
Right.
So it makes me sick.
I know how you I know how you feel. That would be pretty. Yeah, that's pretty gross, actually. So I have a little presentation. It'll give you kind of an overview of everything, and part of it has to do with kind of an overall where I think you could go one option. And
Okay.
as I said before, I'm recording this. I'll give you the recording. It's going to have like 10 minutes of blank in the middle of it because I didn't stop recording while we were offline. And then the presentation I show you, I'll make a PDF. Oh, so what's your email address, Darryl?
My email address is Campy Brothers, which is spelled C as in Charlie, A, M as in Mary, P as in Peter, Y, B as in boy, R as in Robert, O, S at AOL.com.
Oh, wow. that email still works, eh?
Yeah, everybody laughs at me when I say AOL. And you know what? I keep telling my wife, everybody's laughing at us about this AOL account. And she was she was she was always in charge of the computer, and my office managers were then, they did a computer thing. And to be perfectly honest with you, my brother got sick and things happened, but um, I bought my first computer 3 years ago.
Wow.
So I'm technologically disabled. I didn't want to give up my flip phone, but finally everybody
I'm,
said you
yeah,
but
I
that was
didn't want to
probably,
give up mine either.
oh, that small little flip phone was great. But
They
uh,
were. And
hey,
I would
hey,
always
hey,
pretend I was Captain Clerk, and I would do it too far, and the flip phone would fly across the room.
yeah, but I've been on the iPhone for probably, I don't know, 10 years now. But the computer, my brother was in the office, I was in the field, the girls were
Yeah.
on the computer, and I didn't have time for social media. I don't do Facebook. I'm
Right.
just too busy working, man.
Yeah, you don't need
Uh,
it. You don't need it.
so
Cool.
that
So
Go ahead. Go ahead.
okay. So now I've got your email. I'll make a PDF of the presentation, send it to you so you can watch it. You can read through it. You can. I'll probably send you 2 PDFs
Okay.
because one's really more like a pamphlet, but it goes into some detail if you want it when we're done, right? So what I'll
Yeah.
do is I'll share the PowerPoint and just make sure everything looks good. Okay, so I have one of my best friends is on the North Shore of Hawaii, so this is right around the corner from where he lives. And I thought that would be a good place to start.
That looks
And
like
what's that?
my backyard.
Yeah, I think it's near Sunset Beach.
That's right where I'm at, right there.
Yeah, yeah. So he's down. I can never remember the Hawaiian names, but he's about a mile away from there now.
Okay,
And
cool.
a lot of this stuff, like I was really struggling as to what basically my job is to teach you, and then you can make the decisions you want to make, right? And a lot of the stuff that I thought, well, I need to teach you if he's got a trust. I don't think I need to teach him, So there may be things that I missed that I shouldn't, and maybe there's some stuff I go over that I should, but we'll just go through it and start. This is where we start, right? So Rockefeller, he said the secret to success is to own nothing but control everything. And for me, that's the main reason to have the trust, because you don't own it, but you have control over it. And the personal trust that we've designed will legally defer taxes for generations. It'll protect your assets from, frivolous litigation. It avoids probate and legally avoids inheritance tax. Now, there's no inheritance tax in Canada, but President Biden's talked about it for the last 6 months. So by the time your children need to be concerned about it, I'm 100% convinced that there will be one. And England has an inheritance tax, and they're struggling with all the ramifications of it. And, I think the American government's just going to follow suit. So the personal trust that we're talking about, I don't normally get into this detail, but I think you have a trust, so I should tell you. It's a non-grantor, irrevocable, non-self-settled, discretionary, complex, spendthrift dynasty trust.
Woo!
Yeah. So what
I
that
thought
basically,
it was revocable or non-revocable. I've never heard all that stuff.
yeah. So like once it's done, it's done. And we do everything to make sure that it's very, very obvious that you didn't set this up as a way to avoid taxes or evade taxes, which is illegal. It's a dynasty trust because it's set up to last 20 years after your last descendant passes away. Okay, so it could be 2,000 years from now, right? It defers taxes, so the taxes become due 20 years, 21 years, 20 years in a day. I don't know what it is, something like that, after your last descendant passes away. And so at that point, who cares, right? It doesn't matter how much it is. Doesn't matter if there's money in the bank. Good luck. We're all in heaven. Irrevocable. Go
You
ahead.
called non-guarantor. What was the trust name? Non-guarantor.
Abundance. It's a non-grantor.
Okay.
Irrevocable, Can you see the screen?
You know what? It's so small I can't read it.
Okay. All right.
But you know what? I'll listen. I'll listen after this. And
Yeah, because you'll get this and you can check it all out.
yeah.
The fact that it's non-grantor, irrevocable, complex, non-self-settled are all things that make deferring taxes possible.
Okay.
And that's this is set up to defer taxes, protect your assets, and avoid probate. Right.
Okay.
So that's the personal trust. And the business trust, because there's going to be three things we talk about: the personal trust, the business trust, and a private family foundation. The business trust converts active income into passive income. So your pest control business creates active income.
Mhm.
That is just doesn't work with a personal trust. The business trust is a flow through trust. It doesn't pay taxes, but the money flows through to the personal trust, and some of it I'll get into more details later on. Some of it goes to be, has to be paid taxes on, and some of it doesn't. It
Okay.
also has asset protection. It replaces LLCs, S corps, and everything else. Each business could have its own division. So if you had a pest control business, let's say you decide to have a pest control business on the North Shore and a pest control business in Waikiki as two separate businesses. They would be, and say you had two different partners that ran them, or one child ran one and one child ran the other. Then you could set them up as divisions in the business trust. They would have their own banking, their own accounting, their own everything. And as long as you were a trustee in the business trust and you were a trustee or director in the division, there's no problem. So you couldn't have a division that was just your two children if they weren't trustees. Or if I said, hey, I want to have a business in Hawaii, can you just make a division? Unless you were a trustee in the division, it couldn't happen, right? So it makes it very easy to run businesses, and you have a lot more protection than you have with an LLC. I can't really talk to an S corp. So this is kind of what what I just described. So you have the business trust here, and then you're a trustee in it. And then in this case, I just put 4 divisions. They would replace 4 LLCs, and you would have outside business partners in divisions or not, right? But like you may want to have your own pest control business. You might open up a pizza joint. You might want to open up something else. It would all be separate divisions under the trust with the protection of the trust. And
Okay.
so. Okay. Yeah. So if you've got any questions, just jump in. It's just the two of us. And
Nope, I don't have any questions. But what you're showing me on the screen on my phone, I can't read any of it. So when it comes to
okay.
the computer, when it comes through a PDF, hopefully I can pull it up.
Right.
Then I'm looking at everything you're showing me. But right now I got a little.
I forgot you're on your phone.
I even got my glasses on.
So, okay. So this, now I'm going to talk about the sale of your investment. All right.
Okay.
So, you know what I can do is this. I don't know if that makes it any bigger or not.
A little bit still. Nope, I can't. Words.
Okay. So the blue dot to the left is your property.
Okay.
And it's in a trust right now. So it would be conveyed from the trust where it's in right now into your personal trust.
Okay.
Now, when the property sells, of course, it would sell be sold through the personal trust to the buyer, and it's conveyed at basis. Basis means the price you bought it at, not the price you sold it at. Okay.
Well,
so
my cost basis right now on that property is $100,000.
Right. And you're selling it for 2 point something, right?
Yes.
So you would be conveyed into the personal trust at $100,000. We'll just use round numbers. And then it's sold through the trust for 200. All that capital gains is deferred. Okay. Yeah. So this is, and again, this is the big picture. So we're not going to get into all the details and the documentation and all that stuff. That's when you say, yeah, let's get into this. The trust would have you and and I see here, I keep wondering how deep I need to go, right? The trust, you would be a trustee. Your wife, if you wanted her to be the trustee, would be a
Right.
co-trustee. Okay. The children would be the beneficiaries. In
Right.
this trust, that's as far as I'm going to go with this example, because I
Mhm.
have the same thing with your home. All right. So the next one we're going to talk about is your rental property, because you said you had 2 properties that you're going to keep forever. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me jump past that. I'm going to go to this one. So this is if your home and other property like cars, boats, that's, furniture, you can convey all of them into the personal trust. Okay. So
Okay.
what happens then is it goes in at basis. So if you spent 70,000 or 150 on the house or whatever, that's what would go into that would be the value going into the personal trust. And what happens then, we use the word convey because I assume that the house is in a trust right now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So conveyed. So I have a couple questions that I don't know the answer to, and I'll ask Brian about, but it's not really relevant to what we're talking about here. So what happens then is our trust will pay all the expenses. You need a new roof, the trust pays for the roof. You want to redecorate the kitchen, the trust pays for all of that. So what I'm basically saying is that you're paying for everything with before tax dollars because the taxes are deferred, right?
Mhm.
You're not paying with after tax dollars. Now, your children as beneficiaries, when they're under 21. So here's what the trust will not pay for. Okay, so I said it would pay for utilities, it would pay for a new roof, it would pay for oil change, new tires of your car, the gas in your car, new couch, all
New
of
house.
that.
New
What's
house.
that?
How about a
New,
new house?
if you wanted to buy a new house, the trust could pay for it for sure.
Well, I'd want to rebuild my house on the ocean.
Yeah, you can do that
How
if
about a
there's
new boat?
money. New boat. Yeah, new boat. The trust can buy everything that you want to buy. Okay.
Right. Right.
And any income that is in the trust has to come from passive income. So if you bought like a Bitcoin a couple of years ago, you could convey that into the trust. And if you bought it for $1,000 and now it's $65,000, then that $50,000 capital gains would be deferred. If you have I was going to say like mutual funds or investments of some sort, and that can be conveyed into the personal trust and they would grow with deferred taxes. Okay. So it will pay for all of those things that the trust owns, the repair and the upkeep of them. And for your children, well, for the beneficiaries, it'll pay for everything except food, fun, and fashion. So in other words, you got to buy your food. That's not a trust expense sort of thing.
Mhm.
If you wanted to travel to Disneyland, then you're going to have to pay for that. If you want a new shirt, you're going to have to pay for that.
Mhm.
Your children, until they're 21, the trust will pay for their food and their clothes. Okay.
Okay.
So again, you're paying almost all, and they will pay for education. So let's say, for example, you decided you wanted to be a chiropractor again. You said, no, I want to do the chiropractic thing. The trust will pay for you to take the course.
Mhm.
If your children say, Dad, I want to learn how to sail, the trust will pay for that education. When they get to university level, the trust will pay for the university. And one of your children says, Dad, I want to get my PhD. I'm now 27. I really think this PhD is what I want to do. And now he's over 21. So the trust will continue to pay for the education until they no longer want to go to school. Or if they stop going to school and 20 years later, they want to, go to a sailing school or something like that, the trust will pay for education. Now, if the sailing school is in Florida and it's 6 months, the trust will pay for the tuition, for the food, for the accommodation, for the books, for the life jackets, for everything that they need for their education.
Mhm.
With you as the trustee and your wife as a trustee, you might have to pay what the typical rent for a bedroom in a house is and shared use of the kitchen and the laundry sort of thing. I mean, so it's not like you'll get the same benefits as the beneficiaries, your children, but it's pretty insignificant when you think about, 10% of the house. So anyway, the accountants, they figure all that stuff out. So it's not like you get the same free ride, but it's pretty free.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
You know,
more to this.
You know what? Not to interrupt, Scott, but I'm a little confused. Where right now the house is in a trust.
Right.
I have a trust, and
Right.
I just took a $50,000 non-refundable deposit because he wanted me to give notice to the renters. I said, okay, well, I'm not giving notice to the renters until I have a signed deal done, and I have which he offered a $50,000 non-refundable deposit, which he wired to me last week into my trust. Now, would we use that trust account? Or are you talking about forming a different?
Would be a different trust. Well, the chances are, if you've got a capital gains and this is in a trust, if you're paying capital gains tax and it's in a trust and it's a revocable trust, then it's not going to have the ability to do what you want to do. So you have your trust, you would get a new trust, you would convey everything from the old trust into the new trust, and then you would have the asset protection and the deferred taxes.
Okay, even though the last 20 years it was written off through my S Corp realty company, and about 10 years ago I switched it from my personal name into the trust. Now, is there a gray zone where the IRS would look at that? You wrote it off through the realty, and then 10 years ago you formed a trust, you put it in the trust
Right.
name. Now,
That's why we need to talk to Barry, because Barry will have the answers to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I know that there's an answer to that will be fine for the IRS and for us and for you.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. I would think my accountant of 30 years would have something better than you're going to pay 30% capital gain. Bottom line, 20 something and state, you're going to pay 30%. And I always said, got to be something.
Yeah. Well, most accountants and lawyers don't know anything about this.
Okay.
The tax codes, tax regulations, the law. I mean, the law itself is 2,600 pages, and then there's probably 90,000 pages of rules and regulations. So they go to school, they're taught, the regular stuff everyone's taught, and they're not taught what Bill Gates and Elon Musk are taught, and that's why they don't know and they can't help you with it. Right.
Okay.
So this one is, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, basically you're opening up a new trust, which is that non-guarantor irrevocable trust, now self-settled, whatever you called it. And you put it into that trust and pay no capital gains or minimal. Right. Even though what was transpired over the last 20 years of what I did and depreciated and it was going through my realty company, and then it was in a trust from 2011. We changed it over to Darryl Campana, trustee, and we formed a trust. And my trust attorney, she set it up where if something happened to me, my brother got everything. If something happened to my brother, I got everything. So what transpired was, God bless him, but he passed away. So I ended up with some things that were in his name. Most things were in my name, but so now things are in my name where we got to sit down with either you and your attorney or my attorney or both. But she has it set up where if down the line, if something happened to my brother, then I get everything. Then the trickle down effect was if something happens to me, my wife gets 50%, my kids get 25% each, so we don't get clobbered with inheritance tax. Right. So I'll let you continue. Now you're talking about opening up a new trust and
moving everything into it. Yeah.
Moving everything. everything I own into that trust.
Yeah.
And even my bank account now, my trust account. Um, I sold a piece of property last year, which my brother owned. We sold that, and that was at 1.5, and I inherited it, so there was no cost basis, no taxes, as far as I understand. We didn't do the tax return yet, but so there's 1.5 sitting in that trust. My brother had a $400,000 life insurance policy. That 400,000 is in that trust. So that trust right now has got about two million in it.
Right.
And then I have an estate account from when my mom passed. And my trust attorney is saying just close out the estate, put it in your trust, because first of
Mhm.
all, tax return every year. Taxes are high with an estate, and there's no reason to have that.
Right.
One of the reasons I kept it for many, many years, Scott, I'll be honest with you, where, it was inherited, and God forbid your wife wakes up one morning and says, you know what, I'm not happy anymore. I want to go. And I
Mhm.
everything. So I kept it in the estate because from the way I understood it, God
It's
forbid you go
yours.
through divorce, it's mine. It's you don't get half of that.
How much is in that?
400.
Okay. Cool. So
And I mean, actually, the property, Scott, not to interrupt you, but the property that I inherited from my brother is in a trust. And I mean, my wife and I are, we're happy 25 years. But you know what? I don't know. I hear stories all of a sudden they fucking wake up and, they're not happy. Excuse my
right.
language, but
Right.
now the money that's in a trust that I sold my brother's property and the life insurance from my brother that was to me. And, now is that money protected, or how do we protect that? Or, I mean,
So if it's in the trust, it's all protected. And
all protected from who?
whoever you want it to protect it from. So, like I said okay, so let's back up just a little bit.
Okay.
I told you that you and your wife would be co-trustees, right?
Right.
So obviously that's a decision that you have to make, because that's who we're dealing with. But there is another position that we've created in the trust that I didn't want to bring up because I did. Now you've brought up the topic, so I'm going to bring it up. It's called a trust. It's called a trust overseer. And so let's imagine that 3 generations from now, you're gone, your kids are gone, or 5 generations from now, and you have this trust. Now, you all of a sudden you've got these great grandkids who are beneficiaries of the trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have no right to ask to take money. They can ask for money, but the only money they get is the money that the trustee authorizes them to have. Okay.
Mm.
So if the trustee is abusive, well, I'm going to give my cousin some money, but I'm not going to give that cousin any money, or something along that line, then what do? And so we have this position called the trust overseer, and they're not part of the trust, but they have a contractual relationship with the trust that they can remove the trustee.
Mm-hmm.
So you would be you could usually we just say, you're the compliance overseer, right?
Mm-hmm.
You and your wife are trustee. You can decide
Right.
if you want to tell her about it or not. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm sure it's in the contract. If she reads the trust document, then she would know. But I mean, I don't know. I guess you should read it.
Well, at this point, I just want to make sure, God forbid something happens. To me,
Yeah.
I just, for my wife is taking care of my kids.
Right. So here's the worst case scenario. Your wife wakes up, she decides, you know what, I don't like this guy anymore. I'm going to screw him. So she goes into the trust as a trustee. She goes into the documentation or whatever as a trustee, and she removes you. because a trustee there's documents to remove trustees, to appoint successor trustees. You wake up and you find out all of a sudden you're locked out. Well, as a compliance overseer, you can remove her and appoint another trustee. So
Okay, but at any given time, she's got the power to pretty much get me off the trust because she's
right,
a trustee.
right. But I mean, yeah. So I mean, she could go behind your back and maybe you didn't notice for a few months or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that as a co-trustee, I mean, so this is a decision you have to make. Do you want her to be a co-trustee or not? And we would probably suggest that would be a wise move.
Okay.
But as a compliance overseer, then if anything happened, you could just remove her as the co-trustee, and then you would have total control of the trust.
Right.
Your assets would be protected and everything else. It's not your assets, it's the trust assets. They would be protected. Hopefully you would come up with a fair and equitable solution to the financial situation that you and she find yourselves in. But that's the reason. One of the reasons that we have it is because trustees have tried to screw other co-trustees, and
right.
This is a dynasty trust. So generation after generation, you put the wrong person in as the trustee and they're screwing everything up. They're making bad investments, or they're selling stuff they shouldn't be selling, or whatever. Then whoever you set up as a compliant, would be the uncle or friend of the family, or someone, one of the beneficiaries. Then they could step up with the blessing of the rest of the group and say, you can't do this anymore. You're no longer the trustee, and we're going to have to set up someone else as a trustee.
Right. Okay. So what you're explaining is, the new trust that we would set up, everything would go into that trust, whether it be a trust account right now, a bank account.
Well, you'd move the money. Yeah, you'd move. That's the whole point, because everything you've got outside of the trust could be sued for or taxed. So we want to put everything into the trust so it's protected and no one has to worry about taxes.
Okay. Whew. Be honest with you, it sounds too good to be true.
I know. It's awesome.
Gosh, it's a lot of legwork and a lot of paperwork, but it's just a matter of filing out forms and you open up a trust, and I've been there, done that.
I know it's going to be a piece of cake for you because you've got all the experience that you need. A lot of people, they have problems going to a bank and getting the bank we get you an EIN number and they go to the bank, and I don't know why they have problems opening the bank account, but they do. So you've already got the bank account. A lot of times it'll just be switching stuff over, and it'll be I think it'll be easy, simple, and fast for you.
Well, in other words, I would just be, I just did it with my brother's property months ago, where I sold the property and then I opened up a trust account here in Hawaii. The money was transferred into that trust account. So once it was closed, I took that money and I opened up a trust account with Morgan Stanley, which does all my finances. And then I closed that account that I opened in Hawaii, so I don't have to do a tax return for that, which is what I was do. So now I have that trust with Morgan Stanley and invested, conservatively, some municipal bonds and some different things. I just look, if I have 3%, I'm happy. I'm over taking a gamble. So,
right.
So, how does the IRS get that? Where, I opened up this, I put it into this trust, and I paid them it's nothing.
They don't mind.
They don't mind.
Because the way I look at it is, I call the people that go to school and do what I did for 20 years, work at a grocery store and have my taxes taken off my weekly check, is checkers players. And once you start getting into the trust and learning this stuff, you become the chess player. And the IRS, they're They know if you're a chess player or a checker player, and they cheat. They knock over the boards of the checker players, and they're bullies, and they're pretty much like, "Ah, that's no problem," for the chess players, right?
Right.
You know, you never hear about Bill Gates being harassed for back taxes, but
Hmm.
you hear a lot about they're hiring 70,000 people to find out who's cheating on their cryptocurrency taxes, right?
I
Because
just
they know.
bought some of that crypto stock coin.
Yeah, yeah.
You
That'll
gotta
go in
roll.
your trust too. That'll go in your trust too.
You gotta roll the dice. I mean, it goes
Yeah.
up 300,000. It goes down 400,000.
I know. It's
But
volatile.
yeah, but I'm a gambler. I'm not a big gambler. I'm conservative, but at the same time, um, you know, I don't have a problem with taking a chance on some certain things. So everything would end up in that trust, and just for the fact that um, you put it from, in other words, escrow is going to say, okay, you got 2.1 million coming to you, and I'm
Yep.
gonna, right now, the first 50,000 was wired into my trust that I have now.
Yep.
So the sale of the property, that money would go into the new trust, or would it
Yep.
go via,
Yep. You
via
want
the
to
old
go. You want to go into the new trust.
into the new trust?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Because if it goes into the old trust, you're going to be paying taxes on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it goes into the new trust, not the old trust.
Goes into the new trust, not the old trust. Okay. Oh man, this is this is confusing, man, because I thought I had no choice but to pay capital gains.
Yeah.
Now you're telling me
Now you don't. Now you have a choice.
now I have a choice. So now my boat's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. I can't
But
wait
let
to
me
visit you and get on it with you.
but let me
My buddy there has a sailboat. He loves it. And I've been out
okay.
often with him. It's great.
Yeah, I just sold my 30 twin diesel, and I still have a center console 26, and I'm looking at building a new boat out of North Carolina and having it shipped out here, flown out.
Nice.
But you know what? Let me also tell you a little bit of my history.
Okay.
Back in, oh gosh, where the hell was it? In the 90s. In the 90s, I was a chiropractor at the time, back in New Jersey. I invested in a company. Long story short, ended up being a Ponzi scheme. So
Oh.
yeah, so I had about 200 grand invested. I got back 200 grand, and my
Oh, so you
account.
got your money back.
Yeah, well, no, not at the end of the day. I lost tons. So what happened is I got my money back, and the feds came in and they discovered it was a Ponzi scheme. The owner of the company fled the country, so they found him in the Cayman Islands, and it was one big Ponzi scheme. So my accountant was always like, return to capital, return to capital. You didn't make money, you didn't make anything. Return to capital. So I would reinvest. Long story short, the IRS stepped in after he fled the country, and they said every check that you received is a dividend check, and you should have paid taxes on it.
Hmm.
So you're looking at tax evasion. So then I fought it. Oh gosh, I fought it for over 2 years, and my attorney bills were over $200,000,
Oh no.
whatever it was. So then we were going after that return to capital, return to capital. So the IRS came to me and said, "Listen, this has been going on long enough. You got two choices: take it to court, fight it, or plead out. And if you plead out, you plead out to one count." So then I went to my attorney and said, "Okay, here's what we got. What odds do you give me on winning this?" He said, "I give you a 50-50 shot." I said,
Ooh.
"That's not very good odds." And he said, and the IRS said, if you fight it, you're looking at 5 counts of tax evasion, and you're looking at 5 years federal. So,
You don't get much choice, do you?
oh man. So anyway, I pleaded out. I pleaded out to a 1 count of tax evasion, and I did 3 months in federal. And then, my family was involved too. But anyway, after I got out, my mother, if you only knew my mother, God rest her soul, she wasn't giving in. So we got out, and My mother kept fighting and fighting and fighting. Long story short, civilly, I won. They gave me
Okay.
back all my penalties, all my interest, and all the money I paid. And civilly, I won. So I should have never went away. But I wasn't willing to.
You can't take that chance.
5 years, a long time.
That's
5
right.
years. So I did
Yeah.
3 years. I came out of there. I was in the best shape of my life. Drinking and just working out every day. I worked in the kitchen. I ate good. So that's why, of course, I don't want a second offense. I
Right.
don't want so everything's got to be done by the book.
Yes. Okay, so this is a good time to tell you something I didn't put in here. Because that's what you bring up is a really, really good point. Like, how do I know that I'm not going to be, going to jail for doing this trust thing?
Yeah,
so,
I'm too back.
Yeah. So there's two parts to it. First is enrolled agents. So do you know what an enrolled agent is?
I do not.
An enrolled agent is someone who's taken a number of courses from the Department of the Treasury. And then they have to get like 80% on their tests to pass. And then when the IRS comes to you and says you owe back taxes or whatever, when you go to the tax court, they're the people that defend you.
Okay.
Okay. So they have the ability, the right, I guess, to write an opinion letter. So when and this is something I think that you should get for sure. So when you decide, okay, I have this trust, this is the way I'm doing everything, you go see and we have a number that we can recommend. You go see an enrolled agent and you tell them what you're doing and you show them the documentation and they write a letter. The letter basically says, I've looked over what Darryl has done, blah, 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 blah. And as far as I can see, and as far as I know, it's perfectly fine and within the rules. Now, 10 years later, the IRS comes up to you and says, all this stuff you did is just garbage and you owe all your back taxes and hundreds of thousands of dollars in late fees and penalties and interest.
Mm-hmm.
You pull out the opinion letter and you show it to them and they go, oh, okay, so you thought you were doing it right. We are your tax defense lawyer, if we went to court, said this was okay. So you don't have to pay any of your late fees, interests, or penalties. We still want the tax. The lawyer that writes out this contract, which is the trust, has E&O insurance, which is errors and omissions. And so I was going to say her, I don't know if it's a her or a him, but their insurance would then pay up to $1 million in taxes that the IRS says that you owe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty good insurance that you don't have to worry about going to jail for a second time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Whew. Okay, it's a lot to take in.
It is a lot to take in.
So we're looking at obviously opening up a new trust, which of course I know that, which is that non-grantor revocable.
Right.
Any other trust necessary that needs to trickle down into other trusts regarding family or property or anything else?
All of that stuff that you're talking about, no. You may decide at some point that you want your children to have their own trust, so they could be their trust could be a beneficiary of your trust, and they could be a beneficiary of your trust, and then they could have, they could be the trustee of their trust, and their children could be. They could do that. They don't. At this point, you don't have to. Some people want to, just kind of keeps things a little cleaner, but you don't. But that's not for now. Now there is a business trust. So let's say, for example, like your pest control business, you didn't want to pay, so I guess the question is, could you not pay taxes on your pest control business? And the answer is yes.
We get checks, no cash, and we have to pay excise tax. And then, of course, it goes over.
Can't help you on the excise tax. That's That we've tried, but we can't do anything on the excise tax.
They want their excise tax.
Yeah.
But of course, my accountant gets a hold of my records at the end of the year, and I'm paying I don't know, probably 39% in taxes. But up until now, a lot of my property, Scott, have been in my name for certain reasons over the years, and we got some things out of my brother's name because he was going through litigation with something, and he ended up winning as well. And so the pest control business was in my brother's name. A lot of our real estate investments have been in my name, and my brother and I, we've been partners from our first paper out, 8 years old,
Right.
and we're partners in everything: chiropractic, clinics, real estate, development, selling, buying. Then we got into this pest control business, and then we put that in his name. So then, of course, now I inherited it, which
Is that an S corp or an LLC?
LLC.
Great. Okay, so what happens? The income. So the income of your pest control business is what's called active income.
Right.
Okay. Passive income is the 3% that you make on your investment in Morgan Stanley. Okay. So that's the difference. So when someone hands you a check because you cleaned out the ants or the termites, then that's active income. Active income is taxable income. So you need to convert it to passive income. So what happens is, so I'm just going to tell this to you and you can think about it. This isn't me telling you this is what you're going to do, okay? But if I start editing myself, then it's going to take forever. So what happens is you take all of the equipment, all of the supplies, all of the whatever you've got, your intellectual property, we value it all and we put it into the personal trust. The personal trust then leases that property back to the business trust or LLC, but I would recommend that you not have the LLC and you have it as a business trust. But either way, it's the same process. 70% of your net profit each month goes back to the personal trust as a lease payment. Now it's passive. 30% of the net profit goes back to the personal trust because the personal trust is a flow through. Everything just flows through it to the business, to the personal trust, from the business trust to the personal trust. That 30% business trust net profit goes back to the personal trust. The personal trust may have some expenses that are related to the business trust. They will deduct those, and whatever's left over you'll pay tax on. So that's usually 12 to 20% of your net profit. And that's the screen that we have up right now that you probably have a hard time looking at and reading, but that's just what I've described. Okay. So now, so what you've done when you have got the personal trust and everything in it is you have saved your children, grandchildren, and their children probate and inheritance taxes pretty much forever because the trust never dies, right? The beneficiaries change, the trustees change, and it's all set up so that it's easy for, you don't have to rewrite the trust or anything else like that. And I guess this would be a good time to say that there's, once you have the trust, you have the trust. Like you've got to pay $10,000 a year to renew the trust or any of that stuff. I'm not going to say it's yours. I think we license it to you, but there's no, it's not a subscription model where you pay us every year for anything.
Right.
Now, the next thing, the third part of this is a private family foundation. And the reason I want to bring this up is remember 12 to 20% of the net profit from your business trust is still going to be taxed. So what can we do about that? So basically the personal trust, the family, let's talk about a foundation for a second. This is a way for us to do good in the world. Okay. So we want to, it can be anything, right? It could be feeding kids in Haiti. It could be, feeding kids in Honolulu. It could be paying for your, well, we'll get into those sort of things, but it's a private family foundation. Now, the difference between this and say PBS, which is also like a foundation, is you're not expected to do a telethon or a fundraising. Usually the money that comes into the foundation comes in from you, okay? And you make that donation and then it goes and does good things. Now, the family foundation pays 0 capital gains taxes, 0 sales tax, and 0 income tax. And the government and the IRS and anybody else that has to do with this sort of thing are fully behind it, because you are doing things to make our society better, right? You're doing charitable works, you're helping people, blah, blah, blah. So the people in the IRS, the departments in the IRS that put you in jail, they have no communication with the people who check on the private family foundation. Right? Like, it's totally, I mean, this is the chess club, right? Like,
Yeah.
they have caviar and wine, and they come in and like, are you moving the rook diagonally? No. You're supposed to go up and down and sideways, not diagonally. Yeah, okay. And that's it. So this is why, like, the Clinton Foundation gets accused of all these terrible things and nothing happens, because it's the country club, right?
Yep.
So if you personally wanted to donate to a foundation, you would get a 30% tax deduction, which means if you made 100 grand, you could give 30,000 to the foundation and write off your taxes, right? So now all of a sudden you'd be paying taxes on 70,000.
And where's that money to the foundation? Is that my foundation?
Yeah, it's going to be your foundation.
But you do have to donate that 30.
You have to spend some money on doing good. But
Good.
it's not 39%. It's going to be 5%. And it gets better than that, because it's not just 5% that goes out. It's 5% that pays for the expenses of the foundation too, right?
Right.
I mean, this is where I have to be balanced, right? Because I don't want this to be, this is great, I can be really greedy and keep all the money and not do anything. This is the part where we want to contribute to society, right?
Right.
Part of the legacy we leave for our children is the fact that we've done some real good in the world with the money. The fact that you can keep, and this isn't true, but this is just to make it simple, you could keep 34% of the money you're paying for your pest control business. You could keep that and spend 5 of it on helping kids in inner Honolulu or something, right? So, but here's the thing, a personal trust that you have, and remember that's where the 12 to 20% of the profits that's taxable is now, it can give 100% of the money that comes into the trust to the family foundation. There's no limit, which means it can take that 12% or 20% or whatever it is, donate it to the family foundation and get a tax receipt to now zero out its taxes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the money in the personal trust, you control it. The money in the private foundation, you control it. Okay. So and I told you in the trust, remember that the trust will not pay for food, fun, or fashion.
Right.
The family foundation is, let's just say, required. That may not be 100% accurate. It's required to have family retreats. The reason it has the family retreats is because it knows that if you try to have a meeting of your family to talk about the foundation's business at home, the phone's going to ring, there's going to be a text, Batman's playing on Netflix, Dad, let's do it some other. It's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So you do a family retreat. You go to Jamaica, you go to Tahiti, you go to, on an Alaska tour, cruise, like whatever it is you want to do for a week or 2 weeks or whatever. And then you set up a time during those retreats where you talk about the business, the family foundation business, right? So let's say that you wanted to, well, let me back up for just a second. The family foundation can grant money to projects that it wants to. It doesn't have it doesn't have to have and doesn't normally have a criteria for what that is. So, for example, one person who has a foundation got a letter. His daughter was going to be going to New York because there was a school trip and they wanted $200 or something. And he said to the teacher that was running it, like, well, what about the kids that, their parents can't afford $200? Well, I don't know. I guess they can't come. And he said, I think that's wrong. And so I want to pay for everyone with my foundation. He wrote out a check for whatever it was. All the kids in that class got to go to New York and have everything, everything paid for them instead of just the ones whose parents had $200 that they could afford to give.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was doing good, right? And doing good might also be, there's a foundation that builds houses for poor people in Haiti. And you might want to say, you know what, we want to give some money to that, that sort of stuff. So this is a way that you can pretty much zero out your taxes. 5% of the value of the assets of the foundation on December 31st are paid out in grants or projects or donations in the following year. Okay. Now, the family retreats that you go on to, that counts. That 5% counts towards the family retreats.
Mm-hmm.
The obviously the donations and everything else count towards it. So it doesn't necessarily mean, I mean, we're talking about 39% on your pest control business, and I mean, so obviously it's a little bit of money, but it's not. I mean, the savings are there, right?
I mean, when you go down, not to interrupt you, but when you say 5%, you're paying 5% out of the foundation, or 5%?
Yes, out of the foundation.
Out of the foundation, you pay 5%. What's left in there?
That's right. So if you're 20% from, just to use the pest control thing, right? Let's say it made $100,000 profit in a year, 39%, you'd be paying $39,000, but through this process, we're now down to 20%. So $20,000 you're going to pay. So instead of paying it, you donate it to the Family Foundation on December 31st. Family Foundation has $20,000 in it. 5% of that is that $1,000? Is that? I think it's $1,000, right?
5%. Yeah, $1,000.
$1,000. So now your family. So let's just say it's like 10 times that, and it's $10,000, right?
Right.
Your 5% is $10,000. Well, $5,000 goes on a family retreat, and $5,000 goes to the food bank. You're done, right? Okay. So that's kind of how that works. Now, here's the good news. And I didn't put this in the presentation because I didn't know about the pest control business. Okay. So when we talk again, I'll get more details on this. But your family foundation is going to really help your pest control business, because so let's do a, for instance, case study, right? I'm going to take a case study I know, but I'm going to change it to pest control. So that pests in certain poor area of Honolulu is really a problem. There are lots of rats and there's lots of mosquitoes or whatever. Termites are destroying houses. So you decide that as a foundation that you're going to have a mission or a project to eliminate termites in this subdivision. Okay. Mm-hmm. So now you can go, you go to the mayor and you say, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to have a meeting with you. I'm the founder of the Eliminate Termites in the Subdivision Foundation, and I want to talk to you about a project we want to do. He opens the door and he says, we've got some money for that. That would be great. We would like to, put that money in with your money and help you with your thing. And then you go to Home Depot and you go to the Home Depot Foundation and you say, this is our project, and I'm the founder of this foundation. This is our project this year. And would you be able to help us? And they say, yeah, and we can give you some money, but we can also supply all the rat poison or all the termite killer stuff or whatever it is, right? So now you have a little event. You invite the press and the mayor and the manager of the Home Depot department, and you have a little hors d'oeuvres or whatever, and you get up and you say, I'm the the president of the Honolulu Foundation, and our project for this coming year is to eliminate blah blah blah, and I really want to thank the mayor for their generous donation and Home Depot for their support, and this is what we're going to be doing. And now all of a sudden you've got this massive amount of publicity and goodwill and everything else. You hire your pest control business to make it happen, right?
Mm.
So you're going to get this money into the foundation, and the foundation has money already. You hire your company. Home Depot, for example, let's just say they supply all of the equipment and all of the poisons or whatever you need, traps that you need, and then you go in house by house by house, and you get 4 square blocks done, or whatever the area is, and you've got great publicity for your partners and for your company, and your company is growing because all of a sudden it's got this project that didn't exist before, right? So
Mm.
you're able to use the foundation to the leverage that the foundation gives you to grow your pest control business. And the foundation opens up doors that no one would ever open up before. The foundation tells everybody you're a chess player, not a checker player, and they're going to listen to you. And the chances are, 70 times better for getting grants and donations if you're a foundation than if you're the average guy off the street. So if you were president of your pest control business going to see the mayor, he would be very polite and get you out of the office as soon as he could and then forget about you. Same with probably Home Depot and all the rest. But when you have the foundation, big difference. Now, Google has an ad program, and it's Google Ads, and they will give your foundation $10,000 a month to advertise. Now, generally speaking, that would be advertising the good works that your foundation has done. However, you could use that money to advertise your pest control business, and every lead that came through it, you would then make a donation to the foundation of $20, $50, like whatever it is you decided you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube has a similar program. They're owned by Google, obviously, and that's $5,000 a month. So between the two, it's $180,000 in advertising that you could get for your foundation that would support the good work that your foundation is doing. And, if it happened to spend some of it on advertising your pest control business or the sale of your property or whatever else, great. The only
Mm-hmm.
thing is we always have to account for everything, right? So it's not like you can't just give it free to the pest control. You have to have an agreement with the pest control company that, I'm going to pay $10 a lead or $100 a lead or $2,000 a lead, or a close or whatever the deal is. And you can then use that. So you can leverage the government because they have tons and tons of money that they want to grant out at the city, county, state level. You can go to the foundations of companies that have products that fit with your pest control. And I'm just focusing on that because it's the only one I know to focus on in your situation. And you can do partnerships with the foundation and them, and then you can have your company do the work. So the foundation is a great way for growing your company, getting rid of the last bit of tax that you might have to pay, and making a real difference in the world. So that's why the private family foundation is so important.
Yeah, I'm just a little confused, Scott, and of course I'll listen to this, and everything that we're talking about today, you're going to send over to me where I can listen to it again.
Yes.
Okay. The only thing I'm confused about is just to backtrack a little bit. Pest control company at the end of the year, my accountant says you got a net profit of $100,000. Okay. As far as getting money into the family foundation, how much of that 100,000 would go to the foundation?
Right. So it's a 2-step process. Okay. So you have your pet control business in a business trust. right?
So we'd have to open another business. We'd have to open another trust for the business.
Yeah. So you what you're looking at really is a business trust, a personal trust, and a private family foundation. You're looking at three things, right?
Okay.
Now, all of the assets of the business trust have been sold to, like if it's in the LLC now, all the assets of the business have been sold to the personal trust.
Mm-hmm.
The personal trust leases all of that intellectual property and assets back to the business trust. And every month, 70% of the net profits go back as a lease payment to the personal trust.
Mm-hmm.
The 30% flows through to the personal trust from the business trust, and that's taxable.
Okay.
But you deduct some expenses in the personal trust that have to do with the business trust, like something the personal trust did for the business trust. And let's just say it goes from 30% to 20%.
Mm-hmm.
That 20% becomes a donation from the personal trust to the foundation. So $20,000, right? Out of your $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
The $20,000 now is in the foundation, and it can be used for your family retreats. It can be used for the project that you want to do. It can just sit there, right?
Yeah. How about, for example, Scott, not to interrupt you again, but say that 20,000 sitting in a family trust. And that particular year, I didn't do anything. I didn't donate. I didn't give anything to anybody. I didn't travel. What happens to that 20%? You're taxed on that 20 grand. You're taxed.
No, but you have to give 1,000 of it to something. So
Okay.
Girl Scout cookies, Boy Scout
Yeah.
cookies. I
Yeah.
mean,
10 minutes.
yeah, it's no, yeah, it's not a problem,
So you're saying you'd have to do something with $1,000, meaning we're back to that 5%.
Right?
Gotcha.
If that was all you had in there, you just take 5% and it goes
Right.
towards, so it's like, I want to go spend a week in Maui, right? Or the Big Island. We'll do it as a family retreat.
Right.
You spend, obviously we're using so let's pretend it's $500 for your week-long trip to the Big Island, right?
Right.
Now you got $500, and then you go and you give it to the food bank or something like that.
Right. Now back to
You treat it like a business, right? You treat each one of them like a business. There's certain things you have to do, like you can't take the rook and go diagonally. So you got to make sure that you're doing, and we train you on all that stuff, right? And we have trust advisors that you can ask all, and I'm hoping I'll be that person, but I expect to be, that'll be able to answer all your questions or something, because some things will come up. You'll go, I wonder if I could do this. And so send me a message and I'll get back to you and we'll meet and see what we can do. Right.
Right. Now, how about back to the 70%, 30% goes to the family foundation. How about now if you make 200 grand, do you
Just double it?
You still take that 70%, and now buck 40 goes to it goes back to lease rent or however you.
Yeah, it's a lease payment.
A lease payment you're paying zero tax on.
Right. It's deferred taxes because leases are deferred taxes.
Deferred taxes. It just seems to me that if you're taking that money and you're putting it somewhere, then it's profit that you should have to pay tax on. But you're saying it's deferred. It's deferred for how long? Forever?
Till 20 years after your last descendant dies.
Okay, that's what you said earlier. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's the thing. In this personal trust, because it's irrevocable, because it's complex, because it's a bunch of other things, passive income is deferred.
Okay.
Lease payment is a passive income.
Okay.
If you owned IBM and you had $100,000 dividend. Okay, so instead of a lease payment or instead of profit in your pest control business, you had property or stock and it paid you 100 grand. It's
Mhm.
in the trust. It's deferred
It's
because
deferred.
it's
Wow.
passive, right? A lease payment is passive because every month you get this payment, but you don't do anything, right? Like
Right.
when I mean, we know when you rent a house to somebody, you get, $2,000 a month and you still got to go fix the roof or whatever, but that's considered passive income. When you go out and spray for bugs and kill the pests and the guy pays you $50 or whatever, that's active income. So we need to convert active income to passive income. So we can convert 70% of the net profit of the pest control business from active income to passive income every month with the lease payment. Then it's deferred. The 30% that is left over flows through, because the way we set it up, the business trust doesn't pay taxes because it flows through to the personal trust. Now the personal trust would have to pay that tax, except it's allowed to take some expenses that are related to the business trust and deduct that. So let's just say it's 30,000 that's going into the personal trust, and for ease of thinking, 10,000 is legitimate expenses that the personal trust had. So it now is at 20 grand. You could fill out a thing and pay your taxes on 20 grand. And we're assuming that this is a number bigger than the exemption, right? I mean, if you're tax exempt, the first 20,000 of your is tax exempt, then like, why would you bother, right? You just fill out your tax thing and you don't pay tax on the first 20,000. But we're going to assume that there is tax on this 20,000. You donate it from the trust to the foundation, you get 100% tax deduction on the 20,000. So that means that 20,000 in income you would have to pay tax on in the personal trust is now zero. And there's no income tax or capital gains tax or dividend tax or any tax in the foundation. Okay. So let me just tell a story for a second. I did tell you the Bill Gates story, didn't I?
Yep. You know what? Give me 1 second. I take a pee.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that.
That's all right. No worries. I just was thinking of one thing while you were gone. When do you want to retire? Like,
Yesterday. No. I gotta work. I need to slow down. I need to spend more time with the kids and more time in the water surfing and more time on the boat fishing. But after my brother passed, I'm wearing two hats right now. So
right.
I'm 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. So as far as retiring, yeah, I couldn't even answer that. I mean, my goal in life was, by 60, the latest, be done. But I can't retire because what do you do? What do you do when you get up in the morning? I mean,
Well, what you do is you go surfing with your kids and
yeah,
you go out fishing with your kids and your wife, and you find so it's like a habit, right? Like, how do you break a habit? You don't. You can't. It's impossible to break a habit. All you can do is replace a habit. So I like to eat ice cream cones. So every day I have 5 ice cream cones. So when I have an ice cream cone, instead of having an ice cream cone, I have an apple. So I get into the habit of eating an apple. And maybe I have 1 apple and 2 ice cream cones for the first month. And then I have 2 apples and 1 ice cream cone. I mean, it's not like, it doesn't necessarily happen like automatically. But so what I would recommend is start thinking about the things that you would like to do that you don't have time to do now. And it's not about, making the change dramatically or right away or anything else. But if you don't start thinking about these things and then start, making it easy to happen, like, oh, I really like to go fishing, but I don't have a boat. Well, then you got to get a boat, right? And I think you have one. Or I really want to go surfing with the kids, but I don't have a surfboard. So you have to set yourself up for success. So you have to have the tools to do the things that you want to do. And that's what you can be doing at this point. And then things will gradually, and I think even on a subconscious level, will gradually change where all of a sudden it's 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I have one day where I can go surf with the kids and sit on the beach. And then, 6 months or 2 years later, it's 8 hours a day. And then it's 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then it's, because maybe you'll find someone that can do some of the managing for you and you can just sort of, so this isn't about like making a dramatic change, but it is about, because this whole stuff that we're talking about is overwhelming. It's a lot of information and it's a big change in your life, right? I mean, just imagine where you would be if you hadn't had to pay any taxes for the last 10 years. So, so this is a good time to be thinking about, like, honey, what are some of the things you want to do? Oh, I'd love to learn to play bridge. Really? Oh, okay. Or I would love to, hike up the ravines or whatever you call those things above Waikiki or Honolulu, or I'd like to surf, or like whatever they are, right? And then, then you can start moving towards those things because you're going to have more money than you can spend, and you're going to make a bigger difference in the world than you could ever imagine right now. And and it's all about spending time with the children and you're growing up with them and enjoying them at each age. The age they're at right now, I think, is a great age. I remember when my kids were that age, although I think every age is great. So I talked about that.
Yeah, you know what? You can take that screen down because I can't read it.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll read it when you send it to me on a computer, and this way I can see you instead of seeing something that I can't read. There you go.
Right. Actually, I'll just make us big. And and you know what might be good is when I send this to you is just give me a buzz and then you can have it open. I can have it open and we can go through each one and you can say like, well, what is this thing or what is that thing? So at the end, what I did was an example of if you had 200 grand in active income, and then it went into the business trust, and then how much went out as expenses and the net profits. And so it just, you may look at it and say, well, I don't understand why this is here or why that's there. And I'll say, oh, because of this, because of that, or I made a mistake.
And how do you figure out, I mean, as far as, every month you're going to be putting money into if I understand it correctly, you're going to be putting money into the business trust, which is considered a lease. I mean, you really, some months we bring in 50 grand, some months we bring in 70, 80 grand.
Yeah.
I mean, can you do it yearly, quarterly, or see where the hell you end up as far as profit wise?
I think you could do it probably quarterly. Like right now, when do you know how much profit you made in January? I mean, I don't want to know what it is. I'm just asking you if you knew.
No. I mean,
when do you know?
I send everything over to my accountant on a monthly basis. He gets my bank statement. He gets my ledger. And at the end of the year, I get a tax return. Here's what you owe. But of course, he gives me my quarterlies, which I should pay. So
does he tell you what your profit is on a quarterly basis?
On a quarterly basis? No.
On an annual basis?
Annual. So,
that's. I mean, you can do it. So we have accountants that do a lot of this stuff. And if you love your accountant, we'll work with your accountant and show him what he needs to do in order to make all the accounting work for this, because there's different lines and different forms than what he's used to using.
Right.
And it's all, I mean, it's really up to you. I mean, you're not paying your taxes until the year after you've made the money. So
Right.
it could, it could go in December or January or February. It's, that's an accounting bookkeeping thing. I just used to monthly, right? I mean, I would like to know monthly what I make. So, but
Yeah, great. I agree.
if you don't, or you want to do it quarterly, or, I mean, it all stays in the bank. It stays in the trust bank, the business trust bank account. And then when
Right.
you tell it to move to the personal trust bank account, it moves. So, and then when you tell it from the personal trust to the foundation bank account, it moves. So whenever you want to do that is fine, because you just need to create the right paper trail and that sort of stuff. It's just,
Right.
for me, it's always nice when I see the money accumulating in the personal trust or in the private family foundation. But that's
Right.
totally up to you.
Yeah, I mean, we're going from a situation where my brother, we had a piece of property at Sunset Point that we were holding on to for 10 years. We bought 10 years ago. His dream was to build a house, Sunset Point, about 8 houses from me, ocean view. So over the last 3, 4, 5 years with pest control, he told my accountant, show as much money as you can, because I need strong tax returns to go for $1 million mortgage or whatever it was going to be. So we were paying taxes out the ass, and just to show that he made a couple $100,000 a year, we were paying taxes for no reason, because my brother passed, and I stole the
Wow.
property. And now I called my accountant, a few weeks ago. I said, listen, the game has changed. We don't. I don't want to show any. I don't want to pay any taxes. So,
Right.
so that was the situation that took place there. So the pest control was getting clobbered in taxes, and that's where he was in the 30-something%, 35, 39.
Right.
But his tax returns are strong. But now that tax situation for 2000, where are we? 22, 2021. My brother passed March 24th. So now we have to file a personal return for my brother for those few months. And the pest control, which I believe, if I'm correct, pest control is an LLC that trickled through his personal return. So now in 2021, he's going to have his personal return with only January, February, March. So the
Right.
pest control money that went into his personal return is going to now go into my personal return, because he passed in March, and now I'm going to have to take all the April, May, June, July, August, September, the rest of the year. That income is going to go to my personal return. So I think we're in a
Oh my God.
Yeah, we're in a situation where something needs to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have rental income. So 21, I paid 3 quarterlies. So I paid, I don't know, 50 grand in taxes on the quarterlies. The fourth quarter, I didn't even pay, because they said, you know what, to my accountant, you gotta figure something out here. Let's see how it goes with the return, because hopefully I don't owe a fourth quarter and quarterlies, but I probably will. Rental income, we don't have as much depreciation because I'm selling some properties, but something needs to change, Scott, because I'm working half the year for the government.
Yeah, that's true. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a link so you can watch this, fast forward through the stuff that's blank or boring or whatever, or you don't need to watch. I'll send you a PDF of the document that I was going through. I'm going to send you another PDF, which just dives into a little bit more about the trusts and what they are, so you can feel good about that. And I'm thinking, I was talking to Barry, and he's out of town tomorrow and back later in the day later in the day, Eastern time, where he is on Tuesday. So I was wondering if around mid-afternoon on Tuesday would be good for you to meet with Barry and I.
Tuesday, not a good day because I'll be on the road. I got a new truck. I got to go get graphics on, so I'll be in town, and I don't want to do this sitting in the car or the parking lot.
Right. So
what's your
how's Wednesday?
Wednesday. Let me see what I got
Or
Wednesday.
maybe I should say, what's a good time for you?
Oh shit. My appointment book. I don't think I have it here. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Guess I left it in my other office. Well, I'll get back to you on that. And Barry's actually an attorney, trust attorney from where?
Virginia.
Virginia. Okay. And Barry's last name you said was what?
Bruce.
Bruce. Bruce.
Yeah, Barry Bruce.
Virginia. How long has he been practicing?
Well, he's been working with trusts for, I think, 30 years.
Okay. He's the man I want.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a summary of what I think we've talked about,
Okay.
so that you can tell me if I've missed anything. And then
Okay.
when you tell me that this,
Nope. Lost again. Are you back?